Is his unvarnished.
Now, breaking news from WRAL. Coverage you can count on.
And that breaking news, more than 60 people feared dead after a mid-air collision near Washington, D.C. Over the next hour, we'll update the search and recovery mission, talk with experts about how this could have been prevented, and the training crews undergo for these types of missions. Plus,
we will not rest until we have answers for the families and for the flying public.
Local and federal authorities vowed to find answers for the families of the victims.
A storm system is headed toward D.C. as well as us. We'll talk about how it could affect the recovery efforts and when we'll see rain here.
And hundreds of emergency responders are searching the icy waters of the Potomac River after that deadly mid-air collision over the Potomac. Here's what we know at this hour. All 67 people on both aircraft are feared dead.
Crews have not found any survivors. They have recovered at least 28 bodies, including 27 passengers from the plane and one from the helicopter. American figure skaters, coaches, and family members were on the passenger jet.
The 12th Aviation Battalion, which was on a training mission, has been grounded for 48 hours while the Army conducts this initial investigation.
Just before this newscast, President Donald Trump addressed the nation, calling the deadly crash a tragedy of terrible proportions.
Chris Levengood was watching those comments. And Chris, what else did the president have to say about this?
Well, Renee and Jeff, you talked about quite a few things, but I should mention right at the start, President Trump requested a moment of silence for the victims and their families, but essentially talked about how the search and rescue mission was underway all night, which now we know is a recovery mission. And he mentioned that the Coast Guard did a phenomenal job. But the president made it very clear this crash should not have happened.
We do not know what led to this crash, but we have some very strong opinions. You could have slowed down the helicopter substantially. You could have stopped the helicopter. You could have gone up. You could have gone down. You could have gone straight up, straight down. You could have turned. You could have done a million different maneuvers. For some reason, it just kept going.
Now, some of the strong opinions the president expressed seem to be targeting diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts of the FAA prior to his administration returning to the White House. He also notes that the position of air traffic controller is for someone who is, quote, brilliant, but noted how the FAA sought out diverse staff, including those with physical and mental disabilities. The president also appointed a new acting chief of the FAA, taking over effective immediately. Federal investigators are actually looking more into this right now. This obviously is such a tragic situation still unfolding at this very hour, Renee.
Chris, thank you. We asked Congresswoman Deborah Ross about the plane collision while she was attending an event this morning at Research Triangle Park.
It is tragic and so much unnecessary loss of human life. We are going to clearly investigate it. I know there have been some questions about what was going on with the helicopter, but we are just mourning this tragic loss, and our hearts and prayers are with the families of the people whose lives were tragically lost.
Other lawmakers from North Carolina's congressional delegation are also expressing sympathy for the families of the victims and promising a thorough investigation.
And here in the WRAL Live Center, we are also monitoring more reaction to that crash. I want to start with the First Lady, Melania Trump, saying, "My heart goes out to those impacted by last night's terrible tragedy. I pray for those who sadly lost their lives, their families and loved ones, and first responders who will work tirelessly through the night. May they find strength and solace in this difficult time." Another person, Secretary Sean Duffy, he says, "May God rest the souls on that plane and in the helicopter and comfort their grieving families." But just in the last maybe 5 minutes or so, we are now hearing from U.S. figure skating. They posted this to X saying they can confirm several members of the skating community were aboard American Airlines Flight 5342, which collided with a helicopter yesterday. These athletes, coaches, and family members were returning home from the National Development Camp held in conjunction with the U.S. Figure Skating Championships in Kansas. We are devastated by this unspeakable tragedy. We will continue to monitor this situation and release more information as it becomes available.
First responders spent hours in the extremely frigid waters of the Potomac River. Within minutes after the crash, a stream of first responders converged on that scene. WRAL's Heidi Kirk spoke with people who witnessed that urgent response. Heidi.
Well, Jeff, I've got to mention, I've flown in and out of Ronald Reagan National Airport more times than I can count. And one of the best moments is when you fly over the Potomac River. It's absolutely beautiful. And now for so many of us that are connected to that city and beyond, that experience is going to be changed forever. Now, take a look at your screens. You're going to see some of that video that was captured last night and in the early hours of the morning as this played out. I spoke with a friend that lives in the DMV area watching all of this play out from her window, watching the first responders on scene swarming that area. She described it as extremely jarring. She said there was a moment that she found out what exactly had played out there. Listen to her describe it.
Right outside the window, it was just like a sea of red lights. And just knowing why that was happening was awful. I mean, I was shuffling in bed, not able to sleep, but then there's also that guilty feeling of being warm in your bed while knowing that that's happening outside.
And of course, that's a feeling that so many of us are feeling this morning. Now, if you take a look at this board, we've been monitoring the flights coming out of Ronald Reagan National Airport. If you take a look right there, you'll see several of them are canceled, but the most recent one that I'm seeing pop up here is coming from Ronald Reagan in around 3:34 this afternoon. Of course, we're going to continue monitoring that board and bring you live updates from here at the airport all day long. Heidi Kirk, WRAL News, live at RDU.
Heidi, thank you. During a news conference this morning, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said the helicopter pilot was aware there was a plane in the area. Secretary Duffy also said there had not been a breakdown in communication between the two aircraft. Joining us to discuss what could have led to the midair collision is James Krause. He's an experienced lawyer who specializes in aircraft and helicopter disasters. James, good to have you on the program. Okay, so we know from D.C. officials and Secretary Duffy that it's far from unusual that military aircraft share airspace with passenger planes at Reagan. Walk us through what the protocol would be regarding helicopters and air traffic control.
The helicopter was on, appears to be what are published routes, legal routes, Route 1 coming from the northwest, joining with Route 4, which goes south right at National Airport. So it was on a published route. It was legal. It was where it was supposed to be. When he entered that route, when the pilot entered that route somewhere in the northwest, he would have had to contact the tower at National Airport. So the tower should have been aware of that helicopter for a reasonable amount of time before this collision occurred. The other thing that I find curious is why the runway 33 was being used, which crosses directly over helicopter Route 4. Normally at National Airport, runway 1 and 19 is used, which would have brought the airliner up the river, landing to the north, and it would not have interfered at all with the helicopter Route 1 and Route 4.
And James, this morning, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth confirmed the military crew did have night vision goggles and that it was a clear night. So weather not a factor. What could have prevented the pilots from seeing the other aircraft?
Well, I don't know what they saw and what they didn't see. I don't know what air traffic control issued. It's clear that air traffic control did not keep these aircraft separate, which is the primary responsibility of air traffic controllers. Air traffic controllers are understaffed, undertrained, and undersupervised and have been for years. So a clear night, it seems to me they would have had visual contact with both aircraft, and if they didn't have visual contact, they should have been clear on the aircraft, on the air traffic controllers' radar. But at any rate, these aircraft should have been kept separate, and they weren't kept separate. I understand that the helicopter received some warning of the presence of the airliner, but you can't issue warnings at the last minute in this sort of a environment.
A lot of takeaways here. And James, we appreciate you sharing your expertise. Aviation expert James Krause, thank you. We are staying on top of this story all day long on TV and online. Download the WRAL News app to get push alerts straight to your phone. It is free to download.
A lot of talk about the conditions weather-wise in that area, as well as the temperature of that cold water during the rescue and now recovery. Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center with the pinpoint exact conditions when this happened.
And certainly when we have a crash like this, the first question is, was it weather related? And of course, it's been well established that there were clear skies. And of course, we double checked as well all the sensors in this area. It certainly looks like there were clear skies. You can see the airport here. The crash site was right here in the Potomac River, just off of the runway. The temperature at 9 o'clock, just about 10 minutes after the crash, 49 degrees. It was breezy. The wind was northwest at 16, gusting to 26, but it doesn't appear that the wind would have caused any of these issues that happened. Of course, the skies were clear. So the second thing is just how difficult it was for the rescue workers to be in that. I know this morning, the coldest temperature there was right around freezing, and that happened at around 7 or 8 o'clock this morning, of course, when they were working. Of course, they're still working diligently. There was ice in the river, not covering the river, but there were icy patches in the water, and the water temperature right now is 35 degrees. So definitely very difficult work for those folks overnight trying to rescue and recover. The next thing that happens is tonight we start to see this rain moving in, and so that also could hamper the recovery effort. We'll also see some of this rain, and we'll talk about when it arrives here coming up.
And back here in the WRAL Live Center, Cary police say they are investigating a shooting at an Exxon gas station. This is on Maynard Road in Cary. We have video of the scene here. Here's what happened just before 6 o'clock this morning. Officers responded to reports of an altercation in the parking lot, which ended up with shots being fired. When police got there, they found one person with a gunshot wound to the chest. He was transported to the hospital, but is expected to recover. The shooter actually turned himself into police shortly after that shooting. They say this incident is not related to the armed robbery that occurred earlier this morning at a Handy Hugo's on NC 55.
Michelle, thanks. Just ahead, the Carolina connection to the tragic D.C. plane crash. We are live in Greensboro, a meaningful place to some of the people killed in the collision.
Also, disaster relief money is discussed at the state legislature, but for which North Carolina disaster?
Plus, Israeli soldier release, the reunion with family for the first of 8 hostages released today.
And back here in the WRAL Live Center, following some breaking news out of Durham, we're learning that the body of a man has been recovered from a pond in Durham after police say he stole a vehicle yesterday. There was a search in this pond yesterday. According to police, officers tried to stop the vehicle on Rowena Avenue. Police said the suspect stopped the vehicle, ran away, and entered this body of water. Canines were used. A dive team was at the scene as well. Police have not identified the suspect. They just said it was a man. It is unclear if the body recovered is that suspect.
Michelle, thanks. We're going to take you back now out to the site of the deadly midair collision near our nation's capital. Everyone on board is feared dead. Search and recovery efforts are underway, mostly recovery now at this point. And according to the NTSB, neither black boxes has been recovered yet. A black box, the flight data recorder, recording information from the aircraft and its journey. We'll have another live update for you at the top of our 12:30 newscast.
2 Russian figure skating coaches with Massachusetts ties were among those on board that fated flight. According to the skating club at Boston, former world skating champions and coaches Evgenia Shishkova and Vadim Nava were on that flight. Their son was also on the trip, but he was booked on a different returning flight.
Skating is a very close and tight-knit community. These kids and their parents, they're here at our facility in Norwood 6, sometimes 7 days a week. It's a close, tight bond, and I think for all of us, we have lost family.
2 other club skaters were also on the flight when it crashed, along with their mothers.
Several confirmation hearings are underway on Capitol Hill. This morning, the Senate Judiciary Committee pressed President Trump's pick for FBI director about his qualifications to lead the Bureau. Kash Patel served in the first Trump administration. Patel is a fierce critic of the Justice Department and the FBI. Republicans have been largely supportive of Patel. The Senate Intelligence Committee launched confirmation hearings about 2 hours ago for his pick to be National Director of Intelligence as well. Tulsi Gabbard is the former representative from Hawaii. She served in the Hawaii Army National Guard, deploying for tours in Iraq and Kuwait. However, she does not have an intelligence background. Gabbard is expected to face probing questions about her 2017 visit with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, who is believed to be responsible for the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Syrian civilians.
The first of several Israeli hostages set to be released today is now home with family. Hamas released 20-year-old Agam Berger into the custody of the Red Cross at the Gaza Strip. She is the first of 8 hostages to be released today as part of the ceasefire deal. Israel is set to release another 110 Palestinian prisoners today. This is now the third exchange since fighting paused earlier this month. While most of the focus of disaster relief is on Western North Carolina, there are still more than 1,000 people in Eastern North Carolina still waiting for help years after the disasters that left them without a home.
Yeah, state lawmakers got an update on the Rebuild NC program today and a request for more money. WRAL Capitol Bureau Chief Laura Leslie is live at the state legislative building where that meeting is still going on now. Laura.
Jeff, actually, that meeting just wrapped up a few minutes ago, and Rebuild NC Director Pryor Gibson told state lawmakers that the program can complete the vast majority of homes that remain to be built in Eastern North Carolina by the end of this year if lawmakers give them an additional $217 million. Lawmakers were not convinced. According to Gibson, some 3,200 homes have been rebuilt since the program started back in 2018. That's about 72% of the need. As of January 1st, about 1,150 still need to be built. Nearly half of those haven't even been started yet. Gibson said the program has made huge strides over the past year, completing more than 100 homes every month. But he said ENCOR does not currently have the money to finish the rest. He said they need a dependable income stream to get the job done.
I'm asking is let us finish the job. And I'm showing you here in paper, in print, in sworn testimony, you give us the money, we'll get these people home.
Give us the money, we'll do it. You come back, give us the money, we'll do it. When does it stop, Director? That's what when does this stop? We can't keep doing this. This has been one of the biggest shams on the North Carolina taxpayers that's ever taken place.
That's Oversight Chairman Brendan Jones. He represents about 2/3 of the families that are still waiting for help, some living in hotels for years after losing their homes. He compared the situation to the movie Groundhog Day and said he has no confidence that ENCOR can actually complete the task. Now, Gibson told them ENCOR needs the money soon or else it's going to lose its contractor network. And if that happens, he said it'll delay the process even further. But lawmakers didn't give any indication how much money they plan to give or when. Laura Leslie, WRAL News, live in Raleigh.
We've been hearing this fight for quite some time, years now, and it's talking about past disasters, not even the ones who are affected right now by it in the western part of our state. On we go.
Absolutely. Trying to look for a little light on this heavy day, and out there's a lot of beautiful sunshine. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner showing us how our Thursday afternoon is shaping up.
And we are taking a look over the downtown Cary Park. There is some beautiful sunshine out here. Some cloud cover starting to stream in, but we may not see much cloud cover until we really get toward the end of the day, closer to sunset. 62 is our temperature, so it feels comfortable. It is dry out, and it's not as windy as it was yesterday. Boy, those winds were really kicking up yesterday. This is a look at the big picture and what's happening. We had a band of rain move across Atlanta early this morning. That is approaching North Carolina now. Still a few light showers down here in South Carolina and back into the mountains. This is a warm front that's lifting northward. It doesn't have as much powerful lift as a cold front does, but there is some moisture associated with it. We could see a few light showers this evening. Eventually, this cold front crosses our area, and when it does, it may bring us the first real chance of thunderstorms that we've seen so far this year. This is a look at the cloud cover. We have a band of clouds here around Greensboro and Sanford, but we don't have a really thick band of clouds that's about to move into our area. It is a little thicker from Charlotte westward, so eventually that rolls through here, and we will see increasing clouds today. 58 in Southern Pines, 58 Goldsboro, 57 South Hill, 62 in Durham. These are our current temperatures, and this afternoon expect mid-60s, 64 in Durham and Raleigh, and 66 degrees in Fayetteville. Our winds not nearly as blustery as they were yesterday. Yesterday I was out on the patio, and our winds were gusting 20, 25 miles per hour already. No gusts, and our winds are at about 3 to 5 miles miles per hour is still coming out of the south, so we still have the warmth that is moving in, and we'll really feel that tomorrow. We may see some gusts later this afternoon, up to 10 to 15 miles per hour, but again, not as strong as yesterday. Yesterday, we ended up with a number of fires in our viewing area and even more back into the western part of the state. We're going to touch on that in just a little while. We'll see a warmer night. Overnight last night, we dropped down into the low to mid 30s. We'll be in the mid to upper 40s for tomorrow morning, and then 75 for the high temperature. Once our front moves through, it's cooler Saturday at 60 and 58 degrees on Sunday. And of course, tomorrow with that front, we're going to have some rain. We'll touch on that in a second. 75 for tomorrow is close to the record high of 77 at RDU, and we may tie the record in Fayetteville. 78 is the forecast and the record. As we get into this evening, we'll have the potential for a few spotty light showers. As we get closer to the early morning hours tomorrow, that chance goes up, but just slightly. We're looking at a little bit of light patchy rain, and then a better chance as we get into the evening when the cold front comes through. That's when we'll have the best chance of some showers, and we're going to walk through that with Futurecast coming up in just a few minutes. Once we get past Saturday and Sunday, which look like they'll be nice days to spend outside, we're back into the 70s for Monday and Tuesday.
Elizabeth, thanks. Coming up on WRAL News at 4, cleaning up forever chemicals. A closer look at what could be a major step forward in Wake County's water safety.
And tonight at 6, WRAL investigates several deaths in our state linked to dental anesthesia. The continuing push to put more safeguards in place. Amazon faces a lawsuit accusing it of secretly tracking users through their cell phones. A class action suit filed in San Francisco claims Amazon used backdoor access and embedded code in apps to track users' locations without consent, violating California law. The lawsuit claims the codes tracked where customers worked, shopped, visited, and more without them knowing. Amazon has not commented. Elon Musk says Tesla will launch an unsupervised robo-taxi service in Austin, Texas in June. Speaking on the company's earnings call, Musk said, "We just want to put a toe in the water," emphasizing public and passenger safety. The Tesla-owned fleet will offer paid rides with no driver behind the wheel. Tesla has been testing the service with employees in the San Francisco Bay Area since last year.
Some chicken nuggets sold at Wegmans are under a public health alert. This affects the 46-ounce bags of frozen, fully cooked, breaded chicken nuggets. The Department of Agriculture says the nuggets may be contaminated with bone fragments. The product has a best if used by date of August 26, 2025. A recall was not issued because you can no longer buy this product. Now, if you have the nuggets at home, you should throw it away or return it to the store for a refund. There have been no confirmed reports of any illness. Wendell is looking for public feedback as it develops a 2-year plan for community priorities. There will be 2 more public meetings to discuss the town's proposed strategic plan. The roadmap includes new parks and recreation developments, downtown improvements, and public safety changes. Wendell Town staff will be on hand tonight from 6 to 8 at Pleasant Grove Carver Center. The final meeting will come in February.
A nation in mourning after the deadliest aviation crash in more than 20 years. New at noon, what we know about the recovery mission near the nation's capital.
First, here's a look at your winning lottery numbers.
Now, breaking news from WRAL. Coverage you can count on.
Thanks for staying with us right here at 12:30. We want to get you back to that breaking news we have been following all morning long. It is believed no one survived a mid-air collision over the Potomac River. At a news conference that ended just before this newscast, President Trump appointed a new acting head of the FAA. Its previous administrator stepped down January 20th. At that same news conference, without evidence, Trump placed the blame on Democrats. The crews on the scene have shifted from rescue to recovery operation now. At least 28 bodies have been recovered, including 27 passengers from a plane and 1 from a helicopter.
And as we heard earlier in the newscast, the figure skating community is mourning the loss of their extended family. And that includes at the Greensboro Ice House, home to many U.S. figure skating championships.
And that is where we find WRAL's Chelsea Donovan right now with reaction from that side of things. Chelsea.
Yeah, so we should mention this place is no stranger to those U.S. national championships. The last one they had was in 2020, so just, 4, almost 5 years ago now. And when we walked in the door here, we could just tell that the mood was generally much heavier. You can see some of the folks here. This is a duo that is training for some upcoming events, and most everybody here is really just in a very somber mood. Now, let's show you some video we shot earlier today. Much like Wichita, Greensboro has hosted 3 different national championships. We know many of the athletes, many very young, were also participating in a development camp. It's called Champs Camp, in association with the figure skating championship there in Kansas. Now, we were told 14 skaters died on board that flight, and tragically, I was told today, one young skater who trains here and at the Orange County Sportsplex, she would have been on that flight from flying into D.C., but she took a connecting flight instead here to Greensboro.
It's definitely a heartbreaking day for the figure skating community. It just makes me want to hug everybody. You don't know how much time you have in this life. So, I definitely am going to be hugging all of my skaters today. And,
Yeah, so it's been amazing to talk to some of these skaters and these private coaches and the general manager here, just how tight-knit this community here, especially knowing that many of the folks that were at that camp either trained here or just up the road in Hillsborough. So this is really impacting communities far and wide. We're live in Greensboro. Chelsea Donovan, WRAL News.
And here in the WRAL Live Center, we are learning that a North Carolina man was one of the flight attendants on board American Airlines Flight 5342. This is Ian Epstein. His wife, Debbie, posted this to Facebook, saying it is with a very heavy heart and extreme sadness that along with our children, we inform you Ian Epstein was one of the flight attendants on American Airlines Flight 5342. Please pray for Ian and our family as we travel to D.C. We will update you when plans are made. They are from Harrisburg, North Carolina.
Michelle, thanks for that. We continue to get new information into the newsroom. Heartbreaking stuff. As recovery operations do continue in D.C., crews are dealing with that extremely cold water. National Weather Service reported the Potomac River was 35 degrees shortly after that crash. Fayetteville Technical Community College trains responders from across the East Coast to respond in various conditions, including extreme cold. The director of fire rescue training says wearing the right gear is essential to protect responders against what's called cold shock.
Even with all that on there, just staying in that water in that cold environment eventually is going to start to seep in and it's going to start wearing down on you. So first responders are going to have to monitor their own health, the amount of time that they're in there, their exposure time in the water, and try to, rotate crews.
They went immediately into that cold water last night. And in the cold water, the human body can lose heat 25 times faster than in cold air.
This tragedy comes 43 years after a plane crashed into a bridge and plunged into the Potomac River. Air Florida Flight 90 hit the 14th Street Bridge and went into the Potomac River on January 13, 1982. 74 of the 79 passengers and crew members died. 4 people and vehicles on the bridge were also killed. The NTSB investigation says the probable cause of that crash was the flight crew's failure to use engine anti-ice during ground operations. The agency also said the flight captain could have rejected the takeoff after observing irregular engine instrument readings. We are staying on top of this story all day long for you on TV and online. Download the WRAL News app to get push alerts straight to your phone. Continued coverage can be found at WRAL.com and on our YouTube page at WRAL5.
Our skies are clouding up this afternoon. In a little bit, we're looking forward to that. Possibly some rain in the next 48 hours, which could help if it gets to the mountains. Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. Right now, it's been so dry, and those fires have been popping up there.
And, over the last several weeks, we've been watching all those fires in Los Angeles. And now we look at what's happening here. We had one pop up in Franklin County that took a couple of hours yesterday for firefighters to put out. These are all brush fires. The 2 that are causing causing the most problems across the state right now are Old Fort. In particular, you may drive through Old Fort on I-40 as you're headed to Asheville. They're on I-40, 250 acres, 55% contained. So this is a big one. This is one where there have been some evacuations of homes and businesses. This one's a smaller one, but it's 0% contained. Woodlawn is just north up into the mountains there, north of Old Fort, northeast of Asheville, 60 acres there. So not quite as big, but 0% contained. This is a look at the new drought status that just came out today. About the same as it was last week, moderate drought, except parts of the mountains went from abnormally dry conditions to moderate drought. The one thing that was fueling these fires really yesterday was the strong winds. And with this front approaching, the winds are going to increase tomorrow. We're looking at winds gusting 30 to 40 miles per hour, again, which could keep some of those fires really going for a few more days.
Charges possibly dropped. What could happen after New York City Mayor Eric Adams met with President Trump?
Analyzing asteroid dusts, what those samples from space reveal about how life came to be on Earth. You can watch WRAL News live anytime on WRAL.com or the WRAL app on your streaming device. We'd love to connect with you online, so follow WRAL on Facebook to join the conversation.
We are in for a pleasant afternoon. Our highs low to mid 60s, not as warm as yesterday, but it should be nice. It might be a nice day to visit the WRAL Azalea Gardens. You're watching WRAL News, available on YouTube TV and the WRAL app on your TV or streaming device.
The Department of Justice is considering dropping charges against New York City Mayor Eric Adams before retaking the White House in mid-January. President Donald Trump met with Adams privately at his Mar-a-Lago estate. Adams faces bribery charges for reportedly accepting perks and campaign money in exchange for influence. His defense team is led by Elon Musk's personal lawyer. A new executive order signed by President Trump could be a major win for school choice. It calls for the Department of Education to issue guidance on using federal funding to support scholarships for grade school students. It also orders the Department of Health and Human Services to issue guidance on states using HHS funds for private or faith-based schools. Several states, like North Carolina, are already using public money to fund private schools.
Posters with the message Black Lives Matter will stay up in one Minnesota school district despite a vote to remove them. The superintendent is defying that vote, saying the posters will remain in place until new posters are ready. The Black Lives Matter posters have stood out in the 4-year debate over the district's inclusive poster series. The superintendent says it's clear there is a deep need for students to know that we all belong. He says a refined poster series will promote inclusivity and academic excellence.
I think that saying Black Lives Matter has made some people feel less than, but what they don't understand is that Black people have always been made to feel less than.
The issue goes before a federal court on February 10th.
Super Bowl is 10 days away, and some companies have already scored big. The record price tag for the top 10 advertisements. Also,
by studying these samples from the early solar system, we gain insight into our own origins.
Clues to Earth's origins, what scientists say samples from a NASA spacecraft revealed. Moments before our newscast, President Donald Trump confirmed there are no survivors in the in-air collision over the Potomac. American figure skaters, coaches, and family members who had been at a camp in Wichita, Kansas, were on board that flight. Just moments ago, we've learned that a North Carolina man was among the victims of the crash. Stephen Bloom from Harrisburg was one of the flight attendants on American Airlines Flight 5342.
A trip to the dentist may not seem dangerous, but for some North Carolina families, their loved ones never made it home. They are among those pushing now for stricter regulations of dentists. And it is the focus of tonight's WRAL investigation. Sarah Kruger is here to explain their fight and the details surrounding this troubling trend here. Sarah.
Jeff, specifically this pertains to anesthesia at the dentist. And we found out there have been 8 deaths related to that in the last 13 years. One of those cases out of Garner is playing out right now before the dental board. I talked to the daughter of the man who died.
It's unimaginable. It's unimaginable. You can't ever foresee that. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm still shocked. Our lives have changed forever. And I just don't think he should be able to go back to the daily norm because we can't.
And her dad's name was Timothy Narius. He was 63 years old. The dental board found that the dentist involved, Dr. Christian Anderson, gave him way too much sedation and that his actions caused or contributed to Narius's death. Dr. Anderson is now fighting to get his dental license back, while families of victims are fighting for more regulation of dental anesthesia.
If physicians in a hospital setting cannot conduct a procedure and administer general anesthesia at the same time, why are dentists allowed to do it outside of a hospital setting?
Tonight, my investigation explores the efforts to change anesthesia regulations here in North Carolina, what's happening with those, and we also hear the personal stories from families. That is all tonight at 6. Jeff and Renee.
Sarah, thank you. Scientists say asteroid samples from a NASA spacecraft hold the building blocks for life. The spacecraft brought back more than 4 ounces of pebbles and dust from an asteroid near Earth. The samples contain salts that formed in a liquid environment like a lake or an ocean. It also contains organic molecules central to life on Earth.
This is telling us that not just the water, but some of the building blocks of life actually were seeded onto Earth and other planets. It wouldn't have been limited to just Earth.
Experts say this type of research can help scientists gain understanding of Earth's origins. Fascinating. NASA always doing some cool experiments there, looking at asteroid dust.
Big universe stuff. Yeah, pretty cool. And we're just going to take a look at our tiny molecules around here. Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center with a look around town with our weather situation currently.
Yeah, a little bit of cloud cover is starting to creep in. We saw a little bit of that this morning, and then lots of blue sky, just kind of trying to creep in again. Most of it's still in the western part of the state, but as we get through the day, we'll definitely start to cloud up. Chapel Hill's courtesy of Top of the Hill Restaurant. It feels pretty comfortable out there right now. It's a little cooler than yesterday, but it's not a bad afternoon across our area to get outside and enjoy. This is a look at the big picture. Here's our warm front. That warm front will cross the area, and that's where we could see a few light showers this evening or early tomorrow morning. And then behind the warm front, when we get to like this part of the storm, it's going to be really warm and windy. Temperatures in the mid to upper 70s, winds gusting 30 to 40 miles per hour. Then the cold front will come through with a quick band of some heavy rain and possibly some thunderstorms. Right now, it doesn't look like anything severe, but that will happen tomorrow evening. The timing of that front has slowed down since this morning, at least on the models that we're looking at. So I'll show you that. Again, warm and windy for tomorrow. Rain starts during the evening, but we'll have the potential for a little bit of that tonight and early tomorrow. Here's Futurecast. You can see at 8 o'clock that little piece of precipitation kind of sneaking by. Most of the day tomorrow will actually be dry. We may even see a little bit of sunshine that will destabilize the atmosphere enough for some scattered storms overnight. But again, I wouldn't expect anything severe. This is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We'll continue to see increasing clouds. Could be a stray sprinkle starting at around 7 or 8 o'clock. You can see this little band of precipitation from Raleigh to Durham to Roxborough. By 11 or 12, it's up to the north. Previously, it looked like we might see a little bit of it sneaking down during the morning commute. But right now, it looks like, it's really a slim chance of that, maybe a 10 to 20% chance at best. So then as we get through the day, there's lunchtime. We're going to be dry, just windy and and warm. But by 7 or 8 o'clock, then we start to see the rain coming through. It is out of here Saturday morning by the time we get to, say, 4 or 5 a.m. Again, this is a little slower than what we were looking at this morning. So if you do have plans on Friday night or Saturday morning, keep checking back as we get those newer runs of the models in. We'll likely see somewhere between 1/4 to 1/2 inch of rain with this. Not much of it tonight or early tomorrow, the bulk of it when the front comes through. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday should be nice. There might be some lingering cloud cover early Saturday, but generally those days will be nice to get outside. A little cooler, of course, than what we'll see tomorrow. Looking at 60 on Saturday, 58 on Sunday after a chilly 36. But then we're right back into the 70s Monday and Tuesday. Of course, that will be February by that point. And looking ahead at some of the climate trends, February is trending above normal in terms of temperature. We'll see how that all plays out as we get into the month.
Yeah, tomorrow's the last day of the month, so that means it's time to talk Super Bowl, one of the most coveted commercial spots of the year. The super price, though, that will accompany this year's ads.
And here's a look at the winning Powerball numbers. We have 8, 12, 31, 33, and 38. The Powerball is 18, and the multiplier is 3. We'll be right back.
Looks like something out of this world right there, the tower cam. We wrap things up right now with a look at a few of the headlines we're following for you today. Now, no one is believed to have survived the mid-air collision between an American Airlines regional jet and a U.S. Army helicopter last night over the Potomac River in the D.C. area. Authorities have found 28 bodies so far. The plane was flying from Kansas to D.C. It was carrying 64 people, including 4 crew. 3 soldiers were aboard the helicopter. Several members of the U.S. figure skating community were aboard that jet, including 1994 world champs in pairs from Russia.
A man was shot in the chest this morning at an Exxon station in Cary. He was hospitalized with serious injuries and is expected to recover. Police say the shooter later turned himself in. Now, about 90 minutes earlier, 2 armed suspects robbed a Handy Hugo's gas station, stealing cash and items before firing a shot into a display. No one was hurt there. Police say the 2 incidents are not related.
Durham authorities recovered a man's body from a pond during the search for a suspect who ran into the water yesterday. Police say they tried to stop a stolen vehicle Wednesday morning in the area of Rowena Avenue. Police said the suspect stopped the vehicle, got out, and ran into the pond. Authorities have not yet confirmed whether the body is that of the suspect.
Companies are shelling out big bucks for a 30-second TV ad during the Super Bowl. How much are we talking? $8 million. Not only is that a record, it eclipses the already record $7 million rate Fox originally set, just for 30 seconds of TV time. For now, we know some of the usual suspects like Pepsi and Anheuser-Busch will be putting together an ad. State Farm pulled its commercials out due to the California wildfires. You can watch the Super Bowl right here on Fox 50, February 9th.
Time for a pet of the day right now. This is Joe, a 6-month-old neutered male dog, weighs 50 pounds, may get up to 75 to 90 pounds when fully grown. Sweet young guy, though, whose true self is revealed whenever he gets outside to play. When Joe hits the turf in the yard, he is happy, he's outgoing, playful, wagging his tail all over the place. Still a puppy, though, so he can be hopefully introduced to other cats, dogs, and children. SPCAWake.org to get more information on Joe.
Coming up on WRAL News at 4, evacuation orders lifted in McDowell County. We'll tell you why the threat lingers in several parts of the state.
Have a good day. NBC News Daily is up next.